Today we are going to see the explanation and the summary of this poem, The Pulley. Now, what is a pulley? Pulley is nothing but a mechanical device. It's a kind of, you can say, wheel or an axle. And with the help of rope or cable and this mechanical device, one can always lift heavy objects. That is the meaning of pulley. And this example, our poet George Herbert, he has used it wisely, or you can say it's an you can a kind of intellectual. Intellectually, he has used it in this poem. George Herbert, 1593 to 1633, was a Welsh poet. He was a priest by profession. He wrote religious poems with a lot of imagery. Now, what is imagery? When the poet is using he's representing his ideas, objects, actions in such a way that it appeals to the physical senses, then we can say that it is a kind of imagery, right? And what do we mean by conceits? Conceits is nothing but fanciful comparison. So it is a very wise use of both of these things, imagery as well as conceits. Now, the poem exhibits a strange but two-way relationship between God and his worshippers. Now, these worshippers are nothing but humankind. Though he has bestowed his worshipper with all his blessings, somewhere he holds them up with a pulley drawn to be grateful to him in all our endeavor. Now, endeavors are nothing but our all attempts to achieve our goals in our life. God gives so many precious gifts to the devotee, but at the same time, God also expects something in return. Correct? And what does He expect? And what does He withhold? That is what we are going to find it out in this poem. The pulley shows how God lifts the man towards Himself with the pulley of restlessness. And what is distinctly metaphysical about the poem is that a religious notion which is conveyed through a secular scientific image. That means, actually, this is a scientific example which is used here, and at the same time, this poem is also containing, you can say, biblical references as well. Now, I will read out the poem. When God at first made man, having a glass of blessing standing by, let us, said he, pour on him all we can. Let the world's riches, which dispersed lie, contract into a span. Now, this poem is built around the situation where we can imagine God is in the process of making human beings. It refers to the story of creation in the opening of Bible. Herbert uses the word man for the humankind. Now, poet is also describing what God is actually thinking and feeling when he is deciding to pour all the glass of blessings on mankind. Here he says that having a glass of blessing standing by. Now, what do we mean by this blessing standing by? All these blessings are waiting to be used. And how are they? All the world's riches, that means the wealth, they are dispersed lie means what? Nothing but all these are scattered all over. So he says, let it all come together in one place. I want to give all these blessings to one thing, or you can say one of my creations, best of my creations. And what is that? Nothing but humankind. Next he says, so strength first made a way, then beauty followed, then wisdom, honor, pleasure. When almost all was out, God made us stay. See, first he gave what was a blessing? Strength, all kind of strength, power. Then that is physical, mental, all kind of energy he gave away. Then he gave what? Beauty, wisdom, knowledge, cognitive, you can say, capacity to think, then honor, as well as all kinds of pleasures. Now, see, all these blessings are incredibly important parts of human experiences, aren't they? But before he gives anything any more further, God is taking a pause there. That's why it said that God made us stay, because God pauses before He adds the final gift. It's a very precious gift, in fact. Perceiving that alone of all His treasures, perceiving means what? Noticing or becoming conscious of all the gifts so far He has given, He's thinking about something. There is one treasure which He chose not to include, because God, of course, is very wise here, right? So, you can say that the God is a little bit being manipulative or wise here. He says further, "For if I should," said he, "bestow this jewel also on my creature." Creature means again humankind. That means the God is thinking that suppose if I give him this last final jewel, jewel is this blessing is supposed to be very precious, valuable thing. So if I give him that blessing also, then what will happen? He would adore my gifts instead of me. Adore means he will love, he will find all his satisfaction only in the gifts which I have given him so far. So, what he says, that and rest in nature, not the God of nature. That means he will only find all his satisfaction, he will enjoy all these pleasures which are given by nature and not God of nature. He will simply enjoy all his blessing and never turn to God, never remember him or worship him. The humankind will only worship nature instead of God. That is what he's saying. So, as in the previous stanza, the last line says, "The rest in the bottom lay." Here, this now rest is what? And what is this precious jewel that God is still holding on to? It is nothing but contentment, satisfaction. God doesn't want to give this one thing, okay, satisfaction or the contentment to man, because otherwise both will be losers. That is what he says in this stanza. So both should losers be, which means that suppose if he finds all the satisfaction in the God's gifts and doesn't bother to come to know God himself, then both God and the man are impoverished. Okay, both will be at loss. Further, he says, "Yet let him keep the rest." Now, here the meaning of rest is nothing but the rest of the blessings. Actually, in this entire poem, the poet has used very wisely pun over here for the word rest. In the previous stanza, where the line says "rest in the bottom lay," it means rest is nothing but contentment or satisfaction. In the next stanza, when he says "and rest in nature," means he will find all his satisfaction in nature or all his pleasures in nature. And in the last stanza, when the poet says, "Yet let him keep the rest," means rest of the, or you can say, remainder blessings. So it is used again, this poet is playing pun wisely here for the word rest. Further, poet says, "Yet let him keep the rest, but keep them with repining restlessness," which means God is giving man what? Continuous anxiety, and this anxiety is because of dissatisfaction. Dissatisfaction about everything that he has presently. Let him be rich and weary, that at last. Which means human beings could be both rich and they could be enjoying all the pleasures or the blessings, but still they will always be dissatisfied, tired of what they have. And finally, he says, "If goodness led him not, yet weariness may toss him to my breast." That means, if not goodness in him, but because of this weariness, this tiredness, he will ultimately fling into God's embrace. Just like restless, unhappy child wanting to be hugged and loved and flinging itself into father's arms. So it is a very wise thought, isn't it? Have a nice day, all of you.